born in Mexico 45 years ago, in Torreon, Coahuila. When I was 18, I was given the opportunity to come to the United States to work. Originally, my intention was to come work for a few years and then go back, help the family in Mexico. But I went to Louisiana and I love the place. Lasso Green, Mansfield, Louisiana. It's very much like Houston, Texas. It's not too far from there. Yeah. After 1 year, I lost my job, so my relatives in Chicago invited me to go to Chicago. They happen to be teachers, so they asked me to go back to college, and I attended daily college for a few years. After that, I got married to my amazing wife, Ricardo Rincon. She's an incredible individual. Also, the best educator you can find. I mean, next to her, I married up. Let's put it that way. Yeah, she's an amazing educator. So, in education, in terms of education, after I completed my bachelor's in business, at that time in Los Angeles, that's where we were, my family and I. We decided to see if I couldn't find a position as an administrator, business administrator, so I decided to see if teaching would be an option, and it was the best decision I ever made. I started teaching in Gardena, California, in a school called Purshey Elementary, and that's where I was introduced to the world of education. Now, me on the other side, as opposed to receiving education, but on the pedagogical side. So I learned a few things. My wife, again, a natural educator, helped me to understand several concepts that at the time didn't make sense to me. So 2 years later, we were driving to go see her family in Houston, from LA to Houston, and Las Cruces happens to be the midpoint. So we stopped here to spend the night. We took our 3 kids out to dinner, and we just loved the place. We went to Houston, and on our way back, we started to talk about the possibility of relocating. So when we went back to LA, as I was finishing the school year, I contacted Human Resources. At that point, it was Ramon Acosta, who called me back, of all things, and said, "Can you come and interview?" And I did. I was immediately picked up by Terry Stewart, my principal, who was able to, who mentored me for a few years and helped me to understand how to serve a specific student population, in this case, our ELLs. Yeah, and it was a good feeling because I happen to be an ELL myself. So I understood the struggles of these students. So I had the opportunity to work there, and then I went to Monte Vista, where I worked for 2 years, and under the leadership of Teresa Jones, we did amazing things with the school, and for 2 consecutive years, the school got an A letter grade. The state assigned an A to the school. So with that, I went to teach high school mathematics to Centennial, a very new school that we have. And as I was finishing that, I was also finishing my certification as an administrator. As I was finishing the school year at Centennial, as soon as I got the certification, I saw the opportunity. Actually, I was presented with the opportunity to be an administrator, an assistant principal for Loma Heights. Now, during this entire time, I have been exploring Bloom's taxonomy.
What?
Bloom's taxonomy.
Oh, Bloom. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was exploring depth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And different ways to get our students to think critically. Not to just go with the basic understanding of things, but also to go beyond that and explore, be innovators, create. That is no easy task, by the way. So my wife and I, we always have different ways of discussing these things, and eventually we both arrived at the conclusion that without the conceptual piece, our students will only be able to perform in the right circumstances. But when something unknown was presented, they would not have the tools. Why? Because they did not know how to think for themselves. Or at least we didn't help them develop that. Sometimes, at home, with the right home environment, students come with that too. But when they don't have those opportunities, we were not presenting that opportunity to them in the classroom. So we started to push farther. We started to ask our students to tell us more about, why it is that they selected a certain approach or a strategy to help them get to the right answer. Once they were really good at that, we asked them to start evaluating efficiency. I have 2 or 3 multiple entry points to get to a right answer. Which one would I select and why? And now at this point, they are playing with, in this case, mathematics. They are playing with knowledge as opposed to just answering a question. So dual intensity. I had the opportunity or the privilege to be able to be part of the team that evaluated the original Common Core standards about 6 or 7 years ago, well, more like 5-ish. So at that point, I came across some of the ideas that were behind this new way of approaching education, Common Core, CCSS. And one of the pieces that really, really struck me was the shifts in mathematics. There are 3 of them. I think that we have first focus, and then we have coherence, and then we have rigor. Rigor, as defined by Common Core, is dual intensity. It is providing our students opportunities to be able to develop fluency in the procedural practices and also in the conceptual practices. Go beyond basic knowledge. Let's go into the upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy or the upper levels of DOK or depth of knowledge. That's where we have been pushing more of our students, and we have been providing training for our colleagues. And then when I was given the opportunity to become an assistant principal, I asked my principal at the time if she would allow me to start training the teachers on this way of thinking. Because to be honest with you, it may be wrong of me to assume, but many of us were teaching based on the procedure. The way we memorize things and rote memorization or worksheets that are going to give us good practice and allow us to develop fluency in the procedural. But we were not touching on the conceptual. So with that in mind, she gave me the go-ahead, and she helped me to develop a few modules, a few presentations, and then we had an amazing team. They still have an amazing team at Loma Heights with Ms. Kuhn and Ms. Berard. At that time, Ms. Varela was there. And I believe that piece was essential to get our students to be able to function in any setting, not just when they had the right answers, but when I don't know how to approach a problem, do I have something to go back to that is going to help me to make connections that will eventually help me to arrive to a conclusion, a right answer. And our school at the time was performing at a D level, Loma Heights, and then that same year it jumped to a B letter grade, and that tells us that the idea was working. So after that, we started to look into PARC. PARC is a very difficult assessment, and to be honest with you, I know that it has a bad reputation, but to be honest with you, the way I see it is, if we can get our students to master that particular assessment, I think we're setting them up for life. So yes, it may be true what they say, that it is extremely difficult, but I think the challenge should be, can we get our students to do that? And if we can, I know that we're going to be setting them up for life. So that's my thinking behind that. And then as soon as I was given the opportunity to be the principal here, I took the first 3 hours of training so that I could train the staff on dual intensity. And I know that one training doesn't do much. Why? Because it is a different mindset. We're not working with simple pedagogy. It's about the way I prepare my lessons. It's about the way I approach instruction. And it is a way of thinking, okay, am I ready to really challenge my students? Because if I ask you, for example, a simple question that it requires basic understanding, such as 5 times 4, you're going to say it's 20. But okay, so our teachers were doing that and more. But then what happens when you already know the answer? When in a fraction of a second you can give me an answer, that tells me I'm not challenging you. So am I ready to ask you a follow-up question? So that's dual intensity. Okay, they are fluent in the procedural. What am I doing to get them to be fluent in the conceptual? So I guess a follow-up question could be, can you prove it? And if you think about it for a minute, that's making you think. And that's metacognition. It's when you're being forced to think beyond the simple memorization of it is 20. So then we go into depth of knowledge. We go into Bloom's taxonomy, the upper sections of Bloom's taxonomy, and also cognitively demanding tasks.
What's that?
cognitively demanding questions that are going to force you to go beyond. So if you already know how to prove it, I have to be ready as a teacher with a follow-up question. Because if you know how to prove it, am I challenging you? No. So I need to go beyond that and maybe ask a question that would require for you to think a bit more. Well, okay, so you know it is 20. You can prove it. Can you find a different alternative to that proof? Can you prove it with a graphical representation? Can you prove it numerically? Can you prove it with words? Or if you were to evaluate someone else's response, which one is more efficient? Which one is going to get the right image? Both of them are correct, but which one is going to help us to get there faster? You know, so is the idea of, am I ready to challenge them? Do I have a question that is going to force them to think deeply about it? So basically, that's what it is.